Good deal. All right. So module 3 this week, you're going to learn about the elements of the data story. You're going to think about different types of rhetorical appeals. We're going to think about audience reactions, right? Think about how your audience reacts to how we communicate. And then thinking about mixed both narratives and visuals and the power that comes with it, okay? So as you're reading through your textbook for the week, you know that there's really three main pieces to an effective data story. We're going to focus on 2 of those this week before we really move into the data, and that's the narrative and the visual. Okay, sound good? So again, as I will continue to remind you each week, this is the overall purpose of the course. We're moving into this grayish area, right, or this greenish yellowish area. We're starting to talk more about data stories. You all know what data is. We're going to continue to work with data, but now we're trying to figure out how to bring it into a data story by starting with the story and then working our way back to information and insight. So this is, I gotta be honest with you, one of the hardest sentences for me to read out loud, right? Because for those of you who know me, know I live, breathe data. But it's not always sufficient, right? We need more. We need to be engaging, and in order to do that, we have to ask ourselves, which one's more important, the story or the statistics?
Stories.
And that's a question.
Both.
Oh, Ken.
Both.
That's not what I asked. Both is not the answer. So Ken, you said story. Tell us why.
Well, there's a company called WeWork. I think they are the good example of why the story beats statistics.
Tell us why. Tell us the story. About WeWork.
So WeWork, basically, it's a secondhand landlord. They rent the room out to. I think they create a. No, they rent out the room to some third-party worker to work in the space, and then they say this is a culture, and then they sell this pack to like Google or Amazon or some businessman to invest them to land more building. And
yeah.
Basically they say they are a tech company, but they're not. And I mean, they earn money every year, but they also spend way more much than they earn. So it's I don't know how to say it. The WeWork founder, he's a really good storyteller. He sell his company, like he didn't even show the statistics. Like he even don't like say specific what he did. He just say he tried to create a better world. The company he created can evaluate the people mind, like a beautiful stories, and then he sell this story to other people. But he just like a secondhand rent landlord or something.
Gotcha. So his ability to sell his story, right, his company to other people was far outweighing the overall earnings and things like that. That kind of took a little while to figure out, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember WeWork and kind of their fall, right? I think people started to realize that there wasn't as much of a profitability margin there, right?
Yes.
And actually, Ken, can we parlay that example into the story of Elon Musk buying Twitter? Have y'all kept up with that a little bit? A little bit? not so much. Hey, friend. Hey, Lee's friend. No, you're good. You're good. Don't take them away for us. We always appreciate the furry friends. But Elon, right, in his initial bid to buy Twitter, all of a sudden, there were these accusations that there's a lot of fake accounts on Twitter, and so he's trying to stop the sale of that process until they find out exactly how much Twitter's usage and everything is really just bots that are tweeting or retweeting or whatever they do. Yeah, so that's a really great example of stories. I would say, overriding statistics until a certain point, right? Until the rationalization comes into play. So Ty, you wanted to chime in? Feel free.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm in Sweet Green eating a salad. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
I had in the chat that I think it depends on the context whether stories beat statistics. But now in thinking about it more, I kind of agree with Ken a little bit. I'm more on the side of stories beating statistics. And I put in my notes that I'd argue stories can be more compelling, usually storytelling, at least as far as has been around longer, like mathematics and numbers have been. There have been, several civilizations that have histories and telling stories, whether it's a story of like a creation or whether it's a story of what you had for breakfast this morning.
What did we have for breakfast this morning, Ty? She left us hanging. I was really looking forward to yeah, I think she got kicked off. Maybe her connection wasn't too good. Do y'all see her in the participant list? Oh, I see her. Ty, you're back.
Oh, I apologize, y'all. But I don't know. I think it depends on the context. But I'm kind of more on the side of stories beating statistics. But then again, that also may just be the fact that I see stories in front of statistics. So my mind is just like, yeah, that's the winner. I don't know.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good perspective. Saiba, feel free to talk about what you put in the chat also.
Yeah, I do understand that stories do have an effect, especially because I always see in TikTok, someone says a story, they get like a lot of followers and attraction, but we don't know, the facts, and sometimes people use stories without the facts to vilify or create this toxic misinformation about a certain group so people can hate on them. For example, the red pill community on social media and the misogynistic, they always bring some statistics to vilify the woman, like, oh, see, this is what the statistics say, so it must be true. Women, certain, it's just really ridiculous. They use statistics to vilify and stories, but statistic in a wrong way. So I don't know if anyone noticed, but
Tell us about red pill. I don't know this. I'm not on social media. Feel free to
correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but red pill is like a community where they how can I say this? They talk about how how men don't have a good advantage in the society because the law, for example, number one, the law is not on their side because when it comes to family court, the women take the money, the women take the kids, and another thing, how they just vilify women. It's just ridiculous, and especially sad to say that they make Black women like really bad. They, I'll bring an example one day, maybe what they're talking about.
Okay.
Anybody else want to add in? But they just say really ridiculous things that I don't even know how to explain.
Gotcha. Lorraine, you want to chime in?
Oh yeah, I was just saying that's pretty spot on, Seba.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I was just agreeing with Seba. Like I did put in the chat. Like yes, exactly like that. Ty, exactly from the Matrix. Is where they got that reference.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to do a little digging. Apologize for not being informed. Um, Scarlett. Yeah, County. Scarlett, please. I apologize. I missed your comment earlier. Feel free to
Oh,
jump in and
no,
talk about it.
that came to mind when Ty was originally saying they had said about the context. Like, I am familiar with, I'm working in politics right now, so I'm familiar with what goes into cobbling together a story or a narrative for a candidate. And I think that's why, if it's a business, whether that's someone trying to prove they're ethical or otherwise, or a politician, I think numbers will trump whatever story and maybe that's because I see them as empowered, they're empowered in an economic sense, and so I know then that their ability to sway what the public opinion is very power is, that's what having power is. And so in that case, I try to keep my mind on the numbers. But otherwise, I think
Hey.
the average person is moved by the story.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's think about it. Let's flesh that out just a little bit more. In the world of food and health, do stories beat statistics, or do statistics override stories?
I think when you're trying to convince people to donate to food aid or other like nutrition programs, whether that's for babies or just people generally, the story is what makes someone call and donate. And the numbers can be staggering and very arresting, but they don't make you take time out of your day to do the thing, I would think.
Gotcha. Now, what about on the, I would say, maybe something along the lines of like, I don't know, recalls, right? We hear about recalls all the time. They may recall, let's just say, ground turkey at Oscar Mayer, right? Anybody had any food recalled in their fridge or pantry? I think we talked about peanut butter, right? Remember the peanut butter recall that just happened? Y'all don't remember the peanut butter recall? Oh my
This
goodness.
is news to me.
I was devastated. I was
Was it all
completely
peanut
devastated.
butter?
I use almond butter.
Just peanut butter. Just peanut butter was recalled, y'all. I eat a peanut and jelly sandwich every day for lunch. I did not. I lost 5 pounds in about a week. No, I'm joking. But it's interesting that I had the peanut butter in my pantry that was part of the recall serial number, and I did not throw it away. Don't tell Jeff. Jody, lay off the sandwich eating. All right, I'm taking that lecture off the line. But even though the story said throw out your just peanut butter, right? Throwing it out because of your health and possibility for E. coli. I never heard any statistics about people getting sick. And so I was being stupid by taking that risk, but I weighed the lack of numerical data, right, against this persuasion to just throw it out. And my wife got really mad at me about this. She was like, no. She actually threw that out about a month later. She was like, why is this here? So I think y'all are right. Y'all are 100% right. Within context, right? Statistics in context, stories in context, and the right environment, the right situation, especially in politics, right, Scarlett, that all of this has a factor in playing into whether or not we act, right? Remember, that's actually what we're getting to here, is how do you respond to anything? How do we influence people, right? Make Friends and Influence People is a famous book. And we can use both data and storytelling to do that. But in order to do it effectively, we have to know how to balance all three of these elements, right? So we're going to spend a lot of time talking through each of these and really just generally thinking through them. There are narratives, there's visuals, there's data. I don't think I have to introduce any of these to you. I think as graduate students, you're all pretty well aware of what we mean by each of them. What you may not be aware of, though, is two of them alone still can have an impact, right? And in fact, for the majority of your life, you've probably not done all three of these at the same time. That's why we are in this class, right? Because this is a skill set that a lot of people don't have. So when we incorporate data with a narrative, we're really explaining something to people, right? Think about executive summaries, think about reports, think about research articles. Mixing these two together is really trying to help explain something. When we go from narrative and visuals together, then that's trying to engage people, trying to help them visualize what you're saying, right? Not just talking, but actually encouraging their imagination or their own thought processes around it. And for people like me who use data and visuals as a main mechanism for communication, this is really just trying to help people see something that they didn't already see, right? Helping people uncover some truth that they may not have known that existed. So putting all three of these together is really what it generally takes to bring about change, because the overwhelming evidence that we present is just hard to ignore, right? If we see just data and a visual, well, then we don't have the person, the example, the people who are affected, right, incorporated. We just have data, and data alone tells a story, but it doesn't necessarily help us connect to anything else. If we have just narrative and visuals, well, that's fantastic, but what's the broader perspective, right? What is the broader population, the broader sample, all the students, right? If I just tell you a story about students that I just got and I incorporate some visuals, well, that's great, but does that really affect every student equally, right? Is there equity in those statements? And then narrative and data alone is really one of the more dry ways of really presenting anything. And it's one of the quickest ways to turn off your audience, right? Because people don't really feel comfortable with data as a natural instinct. So it really helps to have all three interconnected and balanced in a way that we can thus take it, utilize it, and bring about some change. So that is, I'm right on time. We have about 45 minutes left. So my question to you is, are you a storyteller? Storytelling has been happening in our society and our civilizations for millennia, right? Storytelling is one of the earliest forms of communication, probably before even written language. I'm over here doing this because people talk with their hands. Are you a storyteller? Are you a storyteller? And I know you all are. Everyone's a storyteller in their own way. I'm not going to tell you how to be a storyteller, but what I would like for you to do is give us a narrative. And let's just, if general guidelines, everyone who's ready tonight to tell a story, take about 5 minutes or so, right? Because we do have to shut down the class at a certain point. But what I would like for you to do is when you tell that story, you've got the photo or the picture, right? Share that photo when you're ready, right? It can be at the very beginning. It can be at the very end. It can be somewhere in the middle. But remember, we're your audience. We're your audience. And the impact of incorporating visuals into narrative is, again, to engage us. So when you feel like you need to engage us, or you feel like the engagement's at a critical juncture, thinking about this like story arc, that's when I want you, again, to share that photo. Okay? And when I say share the photo, go ahead and open it up, but don't share your screen until you're ready. Okay? Does that make sense, y'all? Everybody get that? Okay. At least this is how it played out in my head earlier when I was thinking about this. But I thought it would be good for us to, again, start off with this idea of storytelling, not with a focus on data, but with an actual focus on telling stories. Now, the only thing I asked you to do was to take a photo, not necessarily of yourself, like a selfie or a family photo or a portrait or anything like that, but a photo of something related to some sort of action, something that goes along with the story. And tell us that story, okay? Sound good? Who wants to go first? And I will stop recording.